I want to introduce you. But before I introduce you, I just want to say a couple things because we have a lot of people that watch my videos on YouTube. I don't know if you know, I've been doing a tutorial on water polo videos for a couple years now, and we have over 2 million views. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, which is not bad for water polo. But so I have to say, and we have 50% of the views are people outside the United States, so India, Australia, all over the place. So I have to say to the people that have been watching our videos, Coach Schwartz, who I have today, Coach Craig, he is responsible for so much of the content that we've put on here because Craig, you were my first water polo coach and you set the table for me fundamentals wise. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat for the people watching. If you like the lessons that we've been teaching over the last 5, 10 years on YouTube, then you're going to want to listen to this guy today because he's the one uh, that gave me so much. I just jotted down a few things, Craig, that you taught me. And this was just the first 30 seconds. I'm just going to throw this at you. Tee shot.
I'll say first of all, David, you're much too kind.
No, well,
You know what? I was immersed in it for quite a while, but I've been kind of out of touch. And I'll just say in general, when I talk about it to a lot of people I used to either coach or play with, the game's been dynamic. It's changed quite a bit over the years. So what we were learning back then, some of it still applies, and some of it's changed, and it's a different game than it was when I was originally playing in high school. I'll just throw this out to everybody out there, whoever's watching or listening or whatnot. It used to be 5 regular fouls, and you were out of the game. Much cleaner game, just like a basketball game. You could not foul at all. Hands up, defense. The way you play defense was much different in that sense. When you look at it now, it's all about fouls. There's so many whistles. It's basically a 2 meter and a 6-on-5 game that I can really kind of see. Anyway, I just thought I'd kind of throw that out. You're much too kind in your assessment of me. I got mine from other coaches too. Hank Mellencamp and Jim Sprague, and
oh yeah.
had the pleasure to work with Bill Barnett from Newport Harbor and Ted Newland, UC Irvine. Uh,
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I don't want to go. Hang on. You're throwing out a lot of good stuff. I don't want to gloss over this. What did you learn from Bill Barnett, and what? How did you come to be coached by him?
during the summers while I was in college, I played at University of the Pacific,
Yeah.
played water polo and swim. Um, and during the summers, I would come down. I was still lifeguarding in San Clemente, but I would drive up and play with NEMA, Newport Irvine Mesa Association. That was Barnett and Newland were both coaches at that time for NEMA.
Hmm.
Uh, their game knowledge, their intensity uh, was quite remarkable. I mean, they're legends in the sport, of course, and it was great to learn by them. I almost transferred from UOP to UC Irvine after my sophomore year because I was interested in pursuing water polo at a little higher level. What we had at UOP wasn't really that great in terms of the coaching going on. Kind of a step down from Hank and Jim when I was in high school. Although it did pay for my education, I got a full ride to swim and play polo there. But I almost transferred to play with Newland in '76. It didn't unfortunately work out, well, or fortunately. I was pretty happy to finish my college career at UOP. Um, I was just actually going through, this is a folder I have right here of all the stuff I've collected from water polo from the different sources. I was thinking maybe I should pass it along to David, and
You
you can go.
should.
I don't know what I would do with it all. I was just looking at it since you prompted my brain and go in this direction. Some of the clinics I went to, some of the publications, ideas that I've written down over the years, and it's kind of a pretty fat brochure right here that I have going on.
Well, since you mentioned UOP, I want to just briefly introduce you a little bit, and so that everyone knows kind of who we're talking to. You did go to UOP. You were one of the top dual athletes ever at UOP, according to the University of Pacific. You were an All-American in both swimming and water polo in 1975. You were the first recipient of the President Student Athlete of the Year award in 1977. You held the school record at UOP in the 200 backstroke for 22 years until it was
You've done your
broken
homework.
in 1999. What?
You've done your homework.
I have a little bit. That's impressive. And then you were inducted into the UOP Hall of Fame in 2002. Congratulations on that. A little bit belated, about 21 years belated, but that's okay. So,
It was an honor to have that happen to me. And our swimming team was inducted, I think, in 2012 as an entire team. But yeah, the individual honor way back then was quite a great thing to have.
pretty cool. So I want to go back to just real briefly because I find it interesting the five fouls thing. Just real quick. So a regular foul on the perimeter was one of those five fouls. Just a regular, like a single whistle foul was one of those five fouls.
Regular foul was one of those fouls.
Could you have a hand on him, or you couldn't touch him?
If he had his hand on the ball,
If he had his hand on the ball, you could have a
both
hand on him.
guys, if he's touching the ball, then you can tackle him if you're doing it in a way to play the ball. And you're not really playing the man so much. Although at 2 meters now, you can play the man, and it's quite brutal.
Yeah, I know.
Especially with
So,
that are now 6'2", 220, or 6'4", 240, and they still swim 48 plus in the 100 freestyle.
yeah. But so then when they would let go of the ball, you had to be off them.
Exactly.
So then was it in that day then was it a lot more 2 meters action, center action because of that?
Actually, it was a lot less, and there were no kickouts at the time. I think they moved to when your team accumulated so many fouls, you got a penalty throw. After so many regular fouls, they kind of moved in that direction. Um, but it was more of a driving and pick game. We used to work picks so much. Jim Sprague had something he called the super screen.
Mhm.
And in basketball, you can't set a moving screen.
Right.
In water polo, you can't set a static screen.
Right.
Keep moving, otherwise you get called. So
So you go
uh,
into the
different
chicken.
kinds of plays we would work on to try to set up these different screens off of the picks we'd run. And that was off of if somebody got fouled at 2 meters. But it wasn't a foul game at 2 meters. What you say is true. It was more of a shot game at 2 meters. So you had to learn. We worked on this when I was with you guys, the different kinds of sweeps and backhands and layouts that you would do at 2 meters. Now they kind of don't give those away unless you're really, really quick and the defender is a little bit napping. I,
Mhm.
I put it that way, and they're not right on the play.
No, you nailed it. I don't know the percentage, but it seems like 70% of the time it's a man up.
Yes.
It's so much man up now, and I think that's why I was wondering if it was more 2 meter shots because to me that's the most exciting part of the game is the shots out of 2 meters and the drives off of that.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, it is more of a 2 meter game where you have more shots coming out of 2 meters. Um, Obviously, you don't generate any kickouts there, and you
Right.
wanted to avoid fouling. So it was more of a technique about how do I block the sweep? If I know the guy's going to sweep, blocking his arm as it comes in your direction, one way or the other, or the backhand,
Yeah.
or the layout,
Right.
playing defense. So you have your hand up instead of going out after him. As soon as he would drop the ball, if you're on top of him, then it would be a foul.
Right.
So you had how you play the defense. But what you say, yes, it's probably true.
So
More
then
shots coming meters in.
do you then do you think that it was better back then?
I like the game better. It was much cleaner. You had to play really good defense, and the offense was a little bit more dynamic, I think.
Why don't
Uh,
they do more picks now? Because you used to do a lot of picks. I've wondered this. It's a question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned picks. Why would the rule changes now not lend themselves to pick? Is there's too much dropping going on? There's too much. Everybody's crashed into 2 meters.
you don't want the 2 meter shot. People drop back to 2 meters. Um, More often, you're giving the outside shot. They can drive through. I mean, it's always been a popular thing. Drive through to pick up the slough,
Yeah.
and then you kind of balance out depending on what side you're going. But I don't see as much of it. I don't see as many fast breaks going
Yeah.
on. That
You guys
you
used
know,
to you guys used to when we would practice picks in the middle of the pool and fast breaks,
yes.
and that's really
Mhm. You don't
effective.
see that happening anymore.
No, no, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
water polo is basically. I like basketball. I like watching basketball, and I know we played basketball, right?
Yep.
We had limitations on the amount of time we could spend in the pool, so we had to do things outside the pool.
I didn't know
Um,
I was gonna ask you that, coach. I was gonna ask you whose idea was it to play basketball and why? And that's why the limitations?
both Keith and I, and it goes back all the way to Jim and Hank, my coaches in high school. They were one of the first to really do off-season training and out of the pool training. We did the circuit training.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, I guess, CrossFit going on now, where we had probably in the old wrestling room at Sunny Hills High School 40 or 50 stations, including 45-pound weights that you just do tricep extensions with, 35-pound weights, a couple universal machines. We would go 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off.
Mhm.
And then after that, we would probably go in and play full court basketball. And the same things apply. You know, there's a half court in basketball, there's a fast break, there's not a man up. I know that's another dimension that's a little different, but the fast break and the half court are very similar
And the
in terms
post up. The
of
post up is identical, right? Seal,
right.
right? The set pass, bring it in, away from the defender. And also the defense is identical on the perimeter. Crouch, hips up, moving laterally.
Right, and you're trying to play the lanes.
Yes, playing the lanes. Absolutely.
It's pretty big on trying to play the lanes so you can,
Yes.
cut down the passing opportunities.
Yeah, shoot the gap on the pass. And you got to move in basketball. You got to move when the ball's in the air. You can't wait till the guy catches it. Same thing in water polo.
Right, right.
I love basketball. I think there's such a value to playing basketball in the off season, but I have to tell you, it was also so much fun when we would go into the gym and play basketball. That was like my dream come true. I loved it.
Yeah, like I said, had a lot of things that could carry over, and we were limited in the amount of time we could spend in the pool.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of changed now. It's open season. You can practice as much as you want all year long, maybe 1 week of rest period, I think, in high school, but it was very limited then what we could do. One PE period a day in the water is all we really had time for. As I recall, that changed, that went through a metamorphosis. But I think that was true for when you were playing and I was coaching you.
So I want to run through a couple other things that you taught us just off the top of my head. Pressure passing, uh,
Okay.
getting out of wrist grabs. You remember you used to grab our wrist and we would have to get out of it.
Okay.
You taught me how to lift weights. You mentioned the circuit training. You taught me proper weight training fundamentals, which I use to this day. And you'd be surprised, coach, how many young kids in high school have no idea how to lift correctly. Um,
And David, that's kind of a tough question. I coach swimming also in addition to water polo, and I think especially for the girls, they didn't want to so much get into the weight program. I think for water polo, it's essential to build the body strength. Maybe not so much for swimming, unless perhaps you're a sprinter. But when to start weight training and what to do when you start weight training, at what age.
yeah.
Obviously, if you're talking about age group programs, the kids are still developing, the body is still growing. Um, I think one advantage of what we did with circuit training, well, occasionally we went, how much can you do on a bench press? And we go for your max. But really, most of it is lighter weights, a full range of motion, and more repetitions.
Mm-hmm.
I keep the heart rate up the whole time that you're doing it too, of course, so you get the cardio benefits.
Yep. I mean, the standard was 3 sets of 10 was a minimum. We usually maybe did 12. Remember you'd throw in, what you call it, chair sit or something, and we all had to like do
Wall
the,
sit,
the wall sit.
a
The
wall sit.
you'd yell out wall sit and we'd all do the wall sit. Oh man, that burned.
It did. That was
Yeah,
good
no,
leg exercise. Good for skiing if you're a skier, by the way.
it's true. That's true.
But I still do that. I have weights in my garage, and I still do that circuit training
It's
on
good.
certain.
Yeah, you mentioned youth. I think it's great for high school kids to start lifting. I don't think they need to lift before that. I think it's great. One thing I think I wish I would have done in college is I wish I would have lifted throughout the season more because my body broke down. I got really strong in the off season in college. And then as the college season went, those last 10 games or so, I wasn't as strong as early on the season because I broken down my body so much with just the swimming and the playing and stuff. And I wish I'd have continued to lift. That would have been smart for me.
Well, I there are detours in life.
Yeah.
Wait till you get a little older, and
All
you
right.
find that after I retired, I'm just that's kind of a side bit. I stay as active as I can. So, like yesterday morning, I live in Huntington Beach, so I was surfing yesterday morning.
Oh, nice.
Waves are pretty good, by the way. I do my dog walks, bike rides. This is kind of more of a personal note. I've had both my knees titanium now, but I still like to stay active, and weights are part of my activity that I have on a regular basis during the week. And it really helps me keep going at my older age. Hopefully, I keep going for a while longer, but
No
I know
issues
people that
with the
aren't
knee.
as active and don't stay up with it. I still swim too.
Oh,
I go up to where Belmont Plaza used to be. If you remember Belmont Plaza, of
I
course,
do.
the indoor facility has, of course, been demolished, but they have a really nice outdoor pool, and I go in and swim probably 2 days a week. So I still stay active that way too. It's something that, again, what we learn early on, you take with you through life, and those things really work well for me now as well.
I think what you really did as I was looking back on high school, you had to take a bunch of kids had no water polo experience in the summer prior to their freshman year, and you had to teach them from the ground up in a short amount of time. And that's pretty tough to do. And I think when I was looking back, I think what you did a really good job of is the repetition. You didn't try, I think, to throw like 100 things at us. Like, for example, I remember my freshman year, we did pressure passing every practice. It was just like clockwork. Every time I can still picture it. We're in groups of 4, pressure passing every time, every time, every time. Because what's more important than pressure passing, right? If you can't pass the ball when there's a defender on you, you're pretty much a liability on your team. And then the other thing I thought you did really well, and you'd be surprised, I think some of the major clubs in our state don't do this, is hips up egg beater, defensive egg beater position. Now, what did you call that? Did you call it crab? Or
Yeah,
did
I
I?
think that there's crab. We did the crab, where you have your hips up and you're sculling the water with your
Yeah.
hands.
Okay. You called that crab? I don't know if I made that up or if I got that from you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I called it.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, it's a position, and you should be able to go forwards, backwards, left, right in that
Yes.
position using
Yes.
using your limbs as a way to propel yourself. It's good for offense and defense. I think it gives you the most mobility,
Hmm.
uh, both offensively and defensively. I know when you mentioned how can I do that with somebody that doesn't know the game? Well, I think the basis that you have to have obviously is swimming.
Hmm.
It's very evil that a lot of people don't like. Swimming's kind of boring. You go down at the end of the pool, turn around, come back, and do it a whole bunch more times. Try to make it kind of entertaining, but it's a necessary evil. If you're not, like I say now, if you're going to play at high levels, if you're not 48, probably 47 and 100 free at least, you're not going to be able to play,
Hmm.
even though there's not a lot of fast break going on or driving, as I say that. But I think all of you pretty much, and I felt like I was a pretty good technician for not only water polo but swimming, how to refine the stroke to make people faster. Um, and you had the basic skills. I know you and Sean and Carlo, and I think about Dion.
Mhm.
Dustin,
Mhm.
uh, to name a few, all had those swimming skills, I think, coming in, and that's a great help. There were no age group polo programs.
No.
I know later on you developed one in the area and did very well with it. That was such a great thing to have that basis coming in, not only for swimming, but just basic ball handling skills and knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
Individual offense, individual defense, and then moving kind of into a team offense and team defense. That's a little more complex, maybe a little more dynamic to learn and get into. But you guys had those skills coming in, and you were all very motivated too. I think when you get somebody wanting to learn something, has to have the ability to learn something. That group of student athletes that your group, I was had a pleasure of working with. Um, that's a blessing. Uh, I was always kind of a coach's athlete. I would do whatever they said. I would always practice as hard in practice
Mhm.
as I would play the game. I think that's important to have that intensity and that just that drive and motivation at practice that you would have in a game.
What you did, you would get in with us and play against us.
Yeah, guilty. Yeah, I did that. And thanks for taking it easy on me.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh my gosh. We loved that. We loved that, and it gave us such confidence when we played in our games, because no matter what anybody did to us, it was like, "Well, that's nothing. My coach does 10 times worse to me in practice." Because when you used to do a V release, coach, I don't know if you remember this. Your V release, you'd go a couple strokes in, you'd turn, you'd kick, and then you'd V out. You remember that? Is that the way you were taught?
You mean as I'm releasing for the ball?
Yeah, so yeah, you're releasing for the ball. So you're driving in, you're gonna do a V out or a check mark move, right?
Okay,
Yeah, you
all right.
come in, kick off the man low as you extend out.
Yeah, and that was something I learned from Jim and Hank
Oh,
way back.
is that how they taught it?
Yeah, yeah, what you can get away with, right?
Yeah.
Certain rules. I mean, you can't do a blatant kick, but whatever can give
Right.
you an advantage, and whatever you can get away with is part of the deal too.
Yep.
And it depends on what refs are refing. That can make a big difference. Uh,
You always have to adjust. Right. Yeah,
yeah,
but
no, that was Jim and Hank move that they taught me. A little nudge with the foot, a little kick up. Don't make it too blatant, but just enough to give yourself a little room. Carry over to basketball. They do that all the time, right?
oh
A
yeah.
little nudge with the arm, and if you're too blatant about it, then you get the offensive foul.
Yeah, well,
But
there's that famous the Michael Jordan move in Utah where he goes and he sweeps. What was it? What was that guy's name on Utah? He sweeps his hips a little bit this way, right, to get that game-winning shot off. Uh,
right,
Brian Russell. Brian Russell.
okay, I remember him from Utah.
Yeah, yeah, they do that all the time. Well, I'd be in games, and you're just so used to the physicality because you would bring that to practice and your intensity was off the charts. So we had to match that.
You know, I love the game, and it was it was certainly something I think that enhanced the ability to teach the game, to be in the water, and to be able to direct it from such an what I would say, in close and personal, being in the water instead of on the deck. You need to go here, you need to go there. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
A little easier to direct from in the water, even though I got tired from swimming so much. Yeah, but uh, yeah, that was I kept doing that quite a while. I did that when I was doing college coaching too up at UOP, and I know you were talking a little bit about the Olympics. I got to play with some Olympic people. One of them worked at UOP with me. Doug Burke who was on the '84 and I think '88 team, and he was coaching with me. And we used to get in with the college players, and that was pretty fun. And it's a good way, as I say, to kind of teach the game.
Hmm.
Help while they're right there. And
Yeah. So I got two more quick quick questions for you. So this is just a personal thing. Used to teach us swimming in place, elbows high, open the fingers, egg beater kick, right? Did you call that chicken? Or did I
No,
make that up? No. What did you call that?
that's an inside water move in my mind. You got
Yeah.
inside, you got to hold it inside water. And then you might remember a few times where I actually wrapped my legs around your hips.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did that in college a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. That's a great move.
What am I going to do? I got my
Yeah.
hands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But elbows high. Make sure that defender's not right on your back. Yeah. And if you're a defender, you better go to the side,
That's
right, and
right.
play the strong hand on that.
Okay.
Whatever this, and hopefully there is a just a strong hand. I
All
think
right.
being you're a left-handed guy, I know,
Yes.
and yeah, right hand. You talk about the passing skills and the layout passes. To develop that offhand is such a powerful weapon.
Oh yeah.
Just pass with. But if you can do it and shoot with it as well, uh, that's a lot of value right there.
We used to
The
we used
reason,
to work
one of
offhand
the reasons,
sweeps.
go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I said we used to work offhand sweeps. I can remember.
Yes, and offhand passing too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, try doing cross face catches with your offhand. That's a real tough one. It's a good thing to try to work on. Then you know you've developed your hand if you can do that kind of thing.
That's another thing you taught me. Cross face. Put the hand like right here, right? Yeah.
Right underneath the ball,
Yep.
kind of like this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here. Cross face. So much. It's
Yeah,
endless.
David was he's a left-handed guy, so he was very valuable in the field. Didn't let him even try the goal. I don't think. And we talk about field players and goalies; those are different aspects too.
Hmm.
Just to divide those things up, goalie training is a whole different thing than it is in many cases, as opposed to field players. So
This is a really this may not interest very many people, but it interests me. I'm just curious. I've never asked anyone this question before. Why do you think we lost in the CIF final game? Were we not as good as Riverside Poly, in your opinion? Or did we lose because we didn't execute the way we should have? Do you have an opinion on that? If you don't, that's fine.
I kind of do. I've thought about that from time to time. More recently, I've thought about it because I'm going to be talking to David here. Um, I don't know, maybe not to do what we were doing with the steel. If you remember the steel, how we'd go and just make the fouls, go for the steel. Right at the beginning of the game, we were going, okay, what should we do? We're going to go for the steel.
Okay.
You remember that defense?
I don't remember.
Concede the foul and play pressure all around, and you go for the steal. You got the steal. Um, we should have just played what I kind of taught you guys originally. I think at the beginning, which was play the lanes. Uh, don't play the steal defense that we were using, which is an almost automatic foul and feeding down to the half court. Um, they did have a good team. They have a good team. I had the same kind of, shall I say, disappointment my senior year in high school. I was reliving that because, all right, I'll give my age away to everybody out there, whoever's listening and you. I just had my 50th high school reunion from Sunny Hills High School
Wow.
like weeks ago. And some of my swimming and water polo compatriots are there. Some had passed away. Four of them. One of the main players I played with, Larry Wall, had passed away 3 years ago. Um, but I don't know where it's going to go with that. But just the whole
You were talking about your disappointment your senior year?
yeah, the whole thing that we lost to Downey that year in overtime at CIF. So we were runners up that year too.
Oh wow.
I don't know what we could have done differently. I was pretty proud of you guys. Pretty happy with where we were able to get to. Riverside Poly did have a really good team. As I recall, I think we lost to them in the tournament earlier that year, didn't we? Um,
Yep.
their own tournament, as I recall, the Riverside Poly tournament.
Mhm.
And, the name of the coach escapes me there, but he was a longtime coach and a really good coach at Riverside Poly. Always had a good program. You know, the divisions, though, we had, I think, 4 divisions at the time in CIF in Southern California.
Mhm.
Back all the way to when I played, there was only one division. I don't think quite as many schools had programs, but
Mhm.
still everybody was all grouped into one big CIF division. They didn't split it up like they do now, which how many there are, 10, 12 divisions.
That's a lot.
Depends on what sport it is, probably. But a little different in that sense, too. But I don't know. I don't know. I think one thing is I would have probably changed up how we did the defense initially.
The
That
best the best teams when I played would lane you up in front 2 meters, and they would do an aggressive lanes defense, and it was very difficult. Remember, we used to work on pushing them out so that just spread them out, you know? I don't know if that would be effective today with the rules today, but man, I tell you what, like Newport Harbor, you remember them, and they would just lane you up, those really good, San Clemente, those really good teams. So that's
Yeah,
what
that's
you
an effective way to go. And I think that's what I tried to teach you guys early on when I was coaching.
yeah, you
I like
did.
that kind of defense, lane defense, and
Yeah,
spread them out and front the hole,
yeah,
right? Play lane defense and you front the hole. And then if you get fronted in the hole, what are you going to try to do if you're the 2 meter guy? You're going to probably try to go down on the lower wing and try to get inside water.
that's right.
So the 2 meter is trying to push the defender out. There's leg strength right there, right? Arm and leg strength.
Yep,
Uh, so we used to work on things like that, as you recall.
I
If
do.
we're playing against a good playing defense team, you can really try to go deep on them, perhaps, and then bring the ball in from the deep wing. Try to seal off in some way, either for inside water or one side, or maybe swim a new guy in. Right? We had several options at 2 meters. You were one of them. I don't know how much you like playing 2 meters, but
I love it.
uh, yeah, Sean was in there,
And
of course, and then Carlo was in there. So we could drive another guy into set if they had a really strong defender and try to do it that way. Granted, the lane defense that was working against us would make it difficult to get the ball to him to begin with, but um,
that's when the release moves come into play. If you're being laned up, you have to have a solid release move.
absolutely, that's right. Yeah, and a little nudge with the leg or something might help.
A little nudge.
Just a little nudge.
Just a little nudge. I remember it being just a little bit more than a nudge, but that's okay. That's okay. When you're, a young kid getting nudged, I may have made it bigger in my brain over the last 25 years or whatever it is. Coach, we're gonna have to leave it there. I really appreciate chatting with you. This has been amazing. When I reached out to you, I was so excited at the possibility of talking with you. I know I've told you before, and I know I humbled you a little bit at the beginning, but I just can't thank you enough. Seriously, I know you want to defray that compliment, but I can't. I'm just talking over this today. There's just hundreds of things that you taught me, and you taught me the right way. And I'm so lucky because I get kids, like I said, I get kids coming from these programs, these great polo programs, supposedly great polo programs, and they're not doing it right. They're not moving on their legs correctly. They're not doing the release moves correctly. They're not stepping out correctly. They're not pressure passing correctly. And I was taught correctly. I'm so fortunate. I got lucky. So thank you.
Well, thanks, David. I appreciate the opportunity. It's like I say, been a while since I've thought about these things, and it's kind of neat to go back and just review a lot of them. You know what? We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
Hopefully, my son back there. We're just looking. I wasn't quite sure what to expect on all this, but hopefully that's not too blinding for
Oh,
everybody.
I didn't notice that to just right now. You mentioned it. I
Okay.
didn't notice
Yeah.
it at all.
The sunny day in the beach here. Not too bad. A little overcast.
We'll stay in touch, and maybe me and Sheila can come down. We can hang out a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Hope those guys are doing okay. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Coach. Have a good day.